And a good morning to you. Welcome inside the Bottom Line. After a week off, ready to get back and get at it. Had a nice trip last week. It was about to be a poo-pooer, but everything came through. I'm making a few changes in procedures. I ordered yesterday, be here today, one of the new minimalist wallets that it's about a half inch or less thick. Got the RFID protection on it. I can carry it in my front pocket instead of my back pocket. You know, normally, if I go to a park or just about anything where I'm being in a crowd of people, I usually put my wallet in a front pocket or either one of my cargo pockets, not my back pocket.
Right.
But I didn't think about it being at the airport. That didn't occur to me, being at the airport or flying. Because one thing, you got to have it in your flipping hand all the time at the airport. So what happened was I lost my wallet and thought I'd left it at TSA in Hartford, Connecticut. Turns out it fell out of my pocket on the flight back, and it wound up in Charlotte, and I was able to go pick it up on Saturday afternoon, which was really, really nice. I was very happy about that because I had already planned to do Saturday night canceling, and that's a big pain in the ubu. Not counting, I just had my brand new Medicare card, and I was going to have to get a replacement. I was not happy about that. I'm proud of my Medicare card, and so that worked out okay. Everything worked out okay. Let's start World Series. I haven't had a chance to watch it. I've watched other sports, but from everything I've read and everything I've seen about it, it has been really a phenomenal World Series. A lot of followers. It's East Coast, West Coast, old school, matchup, Dodgers and Yankees. I want to say it was, I can't remember if it was game 1 or game 2. The Yankees took out a pitcher based on analytics.
It was 1.
It was game 1?
Yeah, that's when Freddie came in and hit the bomb Friday night.
Yeah. And a lot of people, are saying, especially old-time baseball players and old-time baseball fans, you got to go with what your pitcher's feeling and how he's pitching.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that, but analytics, factor into also understanding what your players can and can't do.
Right.
All right. The problem with analytics is a lot of people get paralysis from analysis.
Correct.
Okay. So as a manager, you have to find you got to find the difference between the two. I remember when Pedro Martinez was left in too long, and they didn't use analytics. So there's always armchair quarterbacking that goes on. Personally, analytics are great. I love the numbers. I think they're wonderful. But when it comes to an individual play and individual performance, what happens is instead of rising to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. All right? So numbers are numbers, but the uniqueness of people always overcome in professional situations those numbers, because that's what got them there. They didn't get there on the analytics. They got there being who they are. And so now that is an arguable point, Lanny. There are many analytical people that would completely disagree with that. But based on my experience, my judgment, the things that I have been through, the epic failures that I've had as a coach and some successes, that is what I believe to be true.
But to me, I don't feel like analytics is what should run and control how your team is set up, how your team –
Oh, completely agree. Completely agree.
To me, analytics is nothing more than another scouting report of tendencies.
It's like the perception that this makes you smart.
Right.
This does not make you intelligent. The ability to acquire information and to be able to decipher it and make sense of it and provide it for something good is what ends up making you intelligent, because you made
you got to know how to
decision.
take advantage of the information that you have,
right, and then apply it.
That's correct.
People talk about knowledge is power. No, it's not. The ability to apply the knowledge that you have learned, hopefully for the better of, is what is so powerful. I used to hear that all the time growing up. Knowledge is power. Well, I see all these knowledgeable people out here, and they couldn't even tie their shoes.
Well, let me ask you this.
I don't know. Just saying.
If you've got analytics, let's just say on a professional level like they do. So analytics, if it is the how do I say this? If analytics is what is the acceptable standard mode of operation for your franchise based on what management has set down. I'm saying management, I'm talking about ownership and that kind of thing.
Yes.
If you follow the analytics and fail, usually you're not going to get the rap for it because you did what they wanted you to do.
Well, that's right.
And it's the same thing. If you didn't follow the analytics and you failed, then they're going to hang you.
But I want you to think of it like this too. All right, and I'm going to throw government in here. If you lie to the government about something, they prosecute you. Mm-hmm. But if government lies to you about something that's called politics, it's the same way in analytical analysis and running, whether it be a program or a franchise or organization. Moneyball was a great example of analytics absolutely working out on how to produce, but not in the end how to succeed at the highest level. Because in the end, analytics don't say, well, this guy's one of the highest character guys I've ever met. He's going to get the bunt down. Mm-hmm. This guy over here understands, playing for 15. Analytics doesn't factor in 15 and 20 years of experience in something or 1 year of experience. It factors in the performance of what happens based on a certain set of criteria, right? It's one of those things where, like, for example, when we coach, whether it be, little league, high school, middle school, whatever we're doing, we get together and talk about our experiences and how to apply it on behalf of the players. Mm-hmm. That's why if you're coaching or I'm coaching, I don't get a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds, and that's all I have around me. Mm-hmm. I have several so I can get some enthusiasm and get certain things done. But when we get together, it's based off of those experiences, right? And that's where the analytical side, basically comes in.
Like I say,
as well.
I think the analytics is nothing more than sitting down. If you're, and I'm guessing they do it in baseball. I like I say, I'm not a baseballer. In football, when you break down tape to see what they do, what their tendencies are in certain situations, and that's what analytics does. But you can't say, okay, this is going to happen. This is what it's probably going to happen, but based on how we're playing and they're playing, I don't think they can get that done in this situation. And that's where you've just got to use analytics as a tool. Because right. I think when you're in the heat of battle, you've got to make decisions based on where things are there. Analytics is cold and dry. It's numbers. Mm-hmm. And when you're dealing with people, you've got to see how they've been responding to certain situations. Did they pick it up here? Did they lay it down here? And those are type things. And I think from what I have read, there were some players that were disappointed in that move being made. And I think that affects the enthusiasm and the way they go after it because they feel like you just screwed us.
Well, what they did is when you look to people for answers and for leadership, that's why the human element can never be eliminated from decision making in the final decision because this is what happens. Mm-hmm. Now, the flip side of this is if he had left him in and it hadn't worked out, then, the analytics told you got to take him out. Mm-hmm. So it's a catch-22. In the end, it's much better to be able to rest it on the shoulders of one person than have a bunch of algorithms telling you what you need to do.
Yeah, but here's the thing. On the analytics side, analytics that they're using are not the analytics of what these two teams do in Game 1 of a World Series because they hadn't been there. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
They're looking at analytics that happened on game 132 out of 162. That's a different situation and a different story.
That is correct.
Because you've got athletes that instead of just going through the norm, they're going to find something
way,
extra
right.
in that situation. And that's why I don't think you can use that. I think it's fine to use the analytics on game 132. That's fine because you've already played 131 of them, and, yeah, that'll probably work out. But when you get – and like now, the Yankees would be stupid to rely on analytics in game 4 because it's win or go home. You're done.
Yeah, they put you behind the 8 ball, and it did. It cost them the series.
I think so.
But then it very easily could have won them the series, right? Again, complete, not you, of course, but in this situation, complete armchair quarterbacking based on numbers. And we live in as you know better than anybody, because that's what you do that a lot. We live in a technology-driven world. I think the one thing that as players, regardless of sport, whatever, as they ascend and become the best of the best, analytics kind of tell the story of how they got there, but it doesn't describe the makeup of the person. Because,
the emotional side.
Right.
Motivational side.
Right. I mean, think about the combine.
Yeah.
A player may run the fastest 40. A player may do this many bench presses. A player may do this. A player may look like Tom Brady and just not perform at all in a combine, but yet, arguably is the GOAT. So where analytics is more, again, Lenny, of a means test.
I just think it's another piece of information that you utilize combined with everything else, your years of experience, your personalities of the players. If a player's a little dinged up, that may hurt you in a certain situation. You got so many variables that you got to take in consideration. You can't just do pure analytics.
And think of it like this. When you played, 70s, I played in the 80s, our coaches didn't use analytics. They used their gut feeling.
So they didn't use analytics when I was coaching.
And, well, that's what I'm saying. And, the thing. At times, I don't always feel like this, but at times I feel like analytics is a way to divert responsibility for decision making.
CYA.
Right. And say, well, the numbers said to do this.
Just like recruiting, same thing.
Yes.
I got this template I got to fill, because if I can fill this template with this, if I can get a player that fills this template, I'm not going to get in trouble if he don't work out.
Right. And so what happens is when you don't have that intuition and you're not willing to make a statement on behalf of what you think is right, then you fall back to numbers, and then you end up screwing people and opportunities, not only for those that need to attain the next level, like a Matt Eisenhower, for example.
Right.
That is probably one of the greatest misses.
Oh, absolutely.
That we can think of in this area, as far as having an opportunity to play on Saturdays in a major Division I setting. I will never be convinced that Matt would have not been a center and potentially been playing beside Travis Kelce, or playing in the same league as Jason Kelce.
Right.
I'm sorry,
but
I've just never seen anything like that in engagement. When Matt engaged, when he was 14 years old, when he engaged, you couldn't get off of him.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. I was 27, first time I ever met him, like truly met him. I knew who he was, but truly met him. When we put pads on, first day of about the third day of practice, when you put the shoulder pads on, they start blocking dummies. And Robbie Abernathy comes up to me, because we're coaching JV football, and he says, I know you and I haven't been coaching 20 years. He said, but I played here, and I played with some really good players. And he said, I know you did at East Burke, and in that conference, like, yeah, Freedom, he said, yeah. He said, I have not seen anybody engage like this and lock on. It's like, well, Robbie, I'm obviously, you got to prove it to me, not just tell it right. Robbie's like, I'm telling you. I said, well, yeah, we're hitting bags. He's like, we just studded up a little bit, just stepping off. And he said, it's different. I said, we'll see on Saturday. Lenny, it was one play. And I'm telling you, on probably Tuesday or Wednesday the following week. I go to Coach Brown. I said, Coach Brown, I got to tell you, this kid is something's different.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Coach Brown said, well, we were talking about things. He said, I'll take a look, whatever, da-da-da. And after our first JV football game, I talked to him the next Friday morning. And Coach Brown was real, from Thursday night until the end of the game Friday night, he was in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard to carry on a conversation with him. It wasn't that morning. I got in there to him pretty early. I said, Coach, I went back and watched, the film with Matt last night. And he's like, yeah. He said, we're going to monitor that. He's different. And a 3 weeks later, we had an injury.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the last JV football game.
But, here's the thing. Even though he got missed out on some Division I football, but he was a member of multiple national championships.
Yeah.
He's in Appalachian's Hall of Fame.
And he is a Hall of Fame.
And in his 30s, he's in. So,
yeah. And there's no doubt. And I'm not downing App. That's not what I meant. I meant where App was at that time, they were still transitioning, even though they were getting really good. And the next year after he graduated is when they beat Michigan because he was helping on that team. Mm-hmm. And I saw one of my former players, Sherman Holt. He's the head coach at Swain County now.
Okay.
Sherman was a freshman or sophomore. He was trying to cross Michigan field. He took the Appalachian flag from one of the cheerleaders or something, and he was running across their field. It was the coolest thing ever. I was like, oh, my God, it's Sherman. He was just wearing it out. It was great.
Now, Richie got a couple questions. Milton, good morning. Richie, good morning. Richie said, is it analytics that tells coaches to line up in shotgun formation on 4th and 1? No, what it is they don't have a way to do it any other way. They don't practice it enough.
Yeah.
They're anticipating that they're not going to get in that situation, and it's not 4th and 1. It's 4th and 5 because that's where the man's got the ball going to be lined up. So it's not analytics. It's just they don't know what else to do. I'll give you another example, Richie. Chicago. It was Chicago and Washington, was it not, on Sunday? The Commanders?
Yeah.
The Hail Mary,
yes,
where Washington beat them. But you know where they said the main thing for Chicago came off the rails? They had a 4th and 1. They lined up in an I formation, 4th and goal, front of 1. They had a second-string center at fullback.
Oh, yeah.
And handed him the ball, and he didn't get in.
They didn't have a fullback.
And
it's
he didn't
different.
Get in. But he should have blocked. He shouldn't have got the ball.
No. And completely agree and completely understand. This is the thing. Football is football, okay? You can have position players, and you can have, well, he does this, and this guy does this, and we don't – first and foremost, and it's the thing that, I talked with, Ethan Rhodes about the 2 or 3 years I got to, spend over at the high school with those boys. And I told Ethan he was really serious about trying to take his play to the next level all the time. He was analytical, but he's incredibly intelligent, but he's also got a lot of common sense. Mm-hmm. And so it's a great mix. You can have conversations with him, and he was dialed in. And some kids you encourage them, but they don't quite understand, so you don't try to fit that square peg in that round hole, right? You just encourage them and talk to them more. Ethan, you could have in-depth conversation with. The one thing I told him, I said, please, whatever you do, never stop being a football player first.
Right.
Because that is the edge and that is the mentality. Now you or someone may say, well, what's that got to do with number 50, whatever, playing fullback and not doing it? What I'm saying is familiarity of a position after you have the football mentality is what is, I say, second, but it's actually 1A. So the Ravens have a fullback, John Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh for the Chargers. They have fullbacks.
Right.
They score on that play because they play football. There is a difference. Now, Jim is more about the fullback and the I and the offset I and the H-back than, per se, John is. Therefore, when you're inside the red zone, your numbers are much higher for success, especially from the 8 and in. with a fullback in the game because they have to bring an extra defender in to play that. Sometimes, Laney, two, because a lot of these fullbacks are great athletes and can catch the ball. So now you got to have a hybrid defensive player to play that, right? So that's where we're at.
But the problem is where the problem comes from, and I watch it all the time in high school. You can't have, in my opinion, there's not enough great athletes around and quarterbacks to allow you to be a shotgun team, a spread team, 100 yards of that field.
Yeah.
You got to have some other stuff. And it can't just be, it was like I heard a great analogy talking about that Chicago and the Washington game.
Yeah.
This is what was said, and this was Matt Hasselbeck that said it. Hasselbeck said when they were playing, and I can't remember who he said the coach was, he said that was a Saturday drill. Was, okay, we're going to let the offense try it a little bit, and then the defense, you've got to stop at that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
He said, but what made it different with what they did? We did it for real.
Yeah.
He said it can't be a walkthrough.
It
can't be a walkthrough because you've got assignments. It's like a free throw in basketball. You got to box out, and you've got assignments. And if you don't do it for real, you know this like I do. What's the worst thing that high school teams are good at, and what's the worst thing they're good at in high school football?
Oh, it's special teams.
Special teams, because there's not enough time put into
terrible.
it.
Yeah,
they don't put enough time.
There's no emphasis put on it, but yet it costs teams games every week. We saw it last week here, in Maiden.
Same thing. That's what I'm saying.
With the Lincoln and Maiden game.
You got to be able to do all facets of the game.
The execution or lack thereof of maybe and again, I'm talking about Maiden. It's other teams as well.
Right.
I'm just giving an example.
You just saw it as an example.
Yeah, that the inability. I mean, when Quinn played, it was the same thing. It's just the inability to be consistent with extra points, and sometimes having to play catch up, going for two and things. Which I like going for two more than I like kicking the extra point. But I understand that the extra point is incredibly important. But I like going for two.
Points are points.
Yeah, when you're equal or greater than your opponent, I like going for two because the analytics are in your favor.
Yeah.
But it's based on each week, right? And the
every situation is different,
right? And the momentum
and how your players are playing. That's exactly right.
And it's confidence level, execution.
Yeah. I mean, when I was coaching, we had a little bit of shotgun. My line wasn't very good or big, and it bought just a little bit more time.
Yeah,
we could start
separation.
something.
Yeah, sure, you create separation.
But we ran the same offense from the gun that we did if we were under center. We could run the same plays, everything, so that nothing changed along those lines. But you've got to have every facet of the game. Richie, that's another good example. When Pete Carroll didn't hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch. He was a guest picker on College Game Day a couple weeks ago, and Saban said, I'd have give you the ball. If I was coaching, I would have give you the ball. And everybody said, well, that was he's taking his shot at Pete because they were so competitive against each other. But, I didn't understand that
it's
one.
Fair
either.
game.
Yeah, I didn't understand that one.
Well, this is what's crazy is the Patriots actually practiced that play on the goal line, and the dude that intercepted it never made a play that week in practice on that play. He couldn't get there.
Yeah.
And Bill Belichick was talking about it. And he
didn't want to waste that time. He was spying on him, getting ready for the game. What, am I wrong? God. I mean, he was just doing his film work. It just happened to come from another guy. Anyway, you can continue. But, what it came down to was you've got – sometimes I think coaches try to be a little too cute. Sometimes I think let
Look how smart I am.
They let a little of their ego get ahead of them. Yeah.
I am the most innovative person in the world. Yeah. Look what I'm doing.
But you'll find that the ones that are really successful,
attention to detail, bro.
The ones that are really successful, they are very good at all the facets and put it together. They don't think out of the box. Now, sometimes we were playing a game against an all-star team out of Charlotte, basically what it was, and it was a group of thugs. They had all gotten suspended or removed from schools. They were in a charter school, and they had some athletes, and we knew that coming in. They couldn't play anywhere else, okay, because they'd already been kicked out. So they had some players. We needed something to pick us up. We're on our own 45. That's when I've got a 6'5" tight end.
Oh, yeah, I
was a
remember you
man.
telling me about that dude, yeah.
And I called pop pass. And the guys on the box said, "Are you sure?" I'm like, yeah, that's what we're going to do. And what I did is I took my backs and actually had them flare on the snap to take those linebackers that were inside, kind of move them out so he could get in behind them.
Oh, yeah.
And we hit it, and it was a good play.
Absolutely.
But, you know, I just felt like that was the time. That was nothing that I had seen. That was nothing. I said, you know, we need something to kind of boost us up a little bit. And if it had failed,
That's a pretty good play against a cover two when
Yep.
you go split backs like that, or even I, and you split those backs out and you sneak it tight
Well,
in the middle against basically against an odd front because they'll have two inside linebackers, right? And they do this, and you squeeze the middle, and then your safeties
well, we
are out.
were
You can get upfield.
we
It's like
ran
those
basically
divide
a wing T type package. So those linebackers were taught to key the backs through the guards.
Oh, yeah,
my guards
sure.
didn't go, but when they saw the backs go, they had to react.
Right, sure, you have to,
They
yeah.
couldn't just stand there.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes it works for you, and sometimes it doesn't. But there are certain situations when you got to go back to what do I do best at this situation,
And just do my
especially
job.
and especially when it's scoring.
Yeah.
If you're in a position where you can score,
Yeah, just do my job.
you got to do your job.
Yeah, I agree.
I
think the most disappointing thing about the Chicago and the Redskins game, from a fan perspective, if you're a Bears fan, obviously losing the game, but watching two of your players taunt.
That was announced yesterday in the press conference.
Was it?
Yes.
They talked about that.
Yes.
Yeah,
And here's why. Going back to Hasselbeck again, he said Monday is Truth Monday. He said when you break that film down, you're going to be honest with everybody there.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, you know, what's going to happen is, and I can't remember that kid's name, if he was jawing and didn't do his job, the big eye in the sky don't lie. And it came out in the news, and when, you know, head coaches have addressed the press in the afternoon after practice and stuff. Yeah, he was the first one to say this guy was wrong. He wasn't doing his job. He let that get in the way of doing his job. And so, you know.
That's a problem.
Yes.
That's a
But
problem.
that's a coaching problem. That's
What
a
is?
discipline problem on the coach's side to make sure that these guys understand that you can't let a crowd get in your head.
Oh, well, what they were doing is like they were out there taunting the crowd because they thought they were going to win. The boy, the kid that the quarterback for the Bears, right? He and another guy are out there. They're taunting the Washington crowd, taunting them. Well, then the Hail Mary's thrown, and then they get beat. That's the problem. That comes down. That's like, that's like when the Texans are playing the Bears, and the Texans quarterback goes up and says, "Hey, man," telling Caleb Williams, C.J. Stroud telling Caleb, he's like, "Hey, man, do this," and he keeps pulling away from him. He's like, "Hey, bro, hold on." He's trying to talk to him and help him out. The guy's like, "Yeah, okay, man, thanks." Let me, hey, it's fair game.
Yeah.
It's fair game.
Yep.
If it's on TV and you choose to be there, it's fair. It's kind of like this. It's fair game. I think there's some issues there, man.
There have been some really good games, just a couple games from the NFL. The Bengals, I don't know if Joe Burrow's injury is what's kind of holding him back a little bit. The Eagles seem to be rolling along again. Very surprised that the Ravens got beat by the Browns. That was
Jameis Winston looked like Jameis Winston at Florida State.
I know.
I mean, good for him. He had like 320. I can't remember
334.
Yeah, just killing it. But there's some major issues with the Bengals.
Browns.
And Bengals.
Oh, okay.
In that division and just going through it.
It's tough.
You're paying a lot of people a lot of money that haven't really done. Getting almost there and getting there are two different things, Lanny. And paying for somebody for almost doing something is hard to justify when you're not getting it done. It's like paying Deshaun Watson all that money.
Yep.
Cleveland would still be a better franchise if they had taken Tim Tebow.
Sure.
And he was still playing there at quarterback,
Yep.
still to this day.
They
would have been better off.
Let me tell you who has,
And you can say that, and it's fair.
And I hope they can make it all the way to the Super Bowl. Is the Detroit Lions.
Oh, yeah, they're the best team in football.
I'm telling you.
They are good.
They put up 52. They're 6-1.
And we're finding out that the real problem at San Francisco, and you say problem, God, they're doing this and doing that, was not the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they won against Dallas. Oh, okay. You know, that's kind of like going to a dumpster fire and not having to worry about taking taking anything to put it out. You just let it burn.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you really don't have to do anything except show up and stay warm.
Yep.
Bring some marshmallows. You know, I mean, it is what it is. Now our Pittsburgh Wilsons are 2-0 right now.
I know that.
And it's, last night.
Thank God they had field goal kickers.
Well, think of this too.
8
and
field goals.
And we've got the best one.
8 field goals.
I say the best
between
one.
the two teams.
Him and there's a couple other guys, but he's pretty good, and that's okay because the team complements the defense. Now, last night we returned a punt for a touchdown, and I went to bed. But scoring, we scored the last couple of weeks, right? And especially the week before. We got to put points on the board. It doesn't matter if it's field goals or touchdowns. It's better to be touchdowns, but it doesn't matter because our defense is just so good. It doesn't matter. It's a compliment to what they got. Now they just got to keep enhancing the offensive side of the football. Mm-hmm. Their special teams is, like you said, talked about, they are really good.
But Tom is going to make sure that happens. I just don't think he puts enough emphasis on the offensive side. But it's better than it's been. It's better than it's been.
I think he came into the league as a head coach with arguably the best quarterback or one of the top 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And really didn't have to worry about it.
Yep.
And it really wasn't a priority, but yet you see how important it really is. And I say wasn't a priority. That's not fair, but it to your point, when you come in, the dude's there. You can focus on everything else, like bringing in Minka Fitzpatrick, which was still one of the greatest moves ever.
Right.
So,
some really good games in college football over the weekend.
Yes, very good games.
Texas Vanderbilt was a good game. Ohio State Nebraska was a good game.
Matt Rule will have them as a top 10 next year.
Yeah, I agree.
He will. He's doing a really good
agree.
job.
Oregon is still rolling. They still rolling, and Pittsburgh is still rolling. They're undefeated.
They're going to be the surprise team, and I think they may be the ones that take Miami down.
Yep. If they play.
Very possible. Oh, they'll have to in the ACC championship.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's right.
That'd
be
correct.
Yeah.
And Penn State's still rolling.
Mm-hmm. Who's the biggest surprise for you of the whole year in college football?
Colorado, probably.
Illinois for me.
Illinois, yeah. And they played. They got beat.
Excuse me. Not Illinois. Indiana. I'm sorry.
Indiana. They're undefeated.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
They still got Murderers Row to go.
And Illinois is good too.
Yes.
But we will find out where. And I'm gonna go out on the ledge here. I don't know if Ryan Day's gonna be at Oklahoma or at Ohio State much longer.
I agree. And he pulls in some of the top coaching talent and still can't get it done. I'm not a fan. Georgia is slowly and silently staying at the top. They were off this week. But Oregon is 8-0, Georgia 6-1, Penn State 7-0, Ohio State 6-1, and I think Ohio State takes another loss. Miami is 8-0, Texas 7-1, Tennessee 6-1, Notre Dame 7-1, BYU 8-0, A&M is 7-1, Iowa State is another one.
All right, just keep going down.
Okay, Clemson 6-1, Indiana 8-0.
And what number are you at?
13.
All right, go ahead and go.
Alabama at 14-6-2, Boise State at 15-6-1, LSU 16-6-2.
Okay. You know why people don't take rankings serious?
Yeah.
Because they don't rank the best teams; they rank them by record. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So
you got to rank them how they're playing.
Right. So and that's not what's happening. Mm-hmm. How can anybody in the country say that Vanderbilt's not a top 25 team? You know what they'll say?
They're 26. Yeah.
They got 3 losses.
Yeah.
Count them up. See who they've played and who they've beat.
But the other side is sometimes you can have good losses, okay?
Yeah.
And bad wins.
Right.
I mean, but
they've had good wins.
Yes.
All right, look who they've beat. And I don't know how anybody in a serious form of fashion could take LSU or Alabama and say that there's 4 or 5 teams in front of them that they just wouldn't wipe the field with. I don't know how that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, if you line up Boise State and LSU, who you think's going to win that game?
I would hope that LSU would.
Why?
I can't pull for LSU.
No, but I'm
like
talking about I'm talking about if you didn't have any interest in it and you were just looking at it as an analyst. All right, and somebody that's a fan of college football. There's no way, based on what I've seen and what you've seen, anybody else has seen, that says, or even would you take Indiana over LSU?
I can't get I can't LSU to open up. I'm trying to find who they lost to. They lost to Southern Cal and A&M.
They lost to A&M this weekend.
Yeah. But they beat Ole Miss, who I think is a really good team.
And that is my point. Everything is so condensed.
But they almost lost to South Carolina.
And they almost lost to Ole Miss too.
Yes.
But that's how
you'd
close
understand that
are.
one.
And
All right,
South Carolina is very
SEC.
changing.
Look at the SEC.
Very challenging.
A&M's on top. Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, LSU is 5th, followed by Alabama, Arkansas, Missouri, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Florida, South Carolina, and on down the list. So, it's – and then you got to look at the Big Ten side of it. It's funny. I click on Southern Cal for the Big Ten side.
Texas is going to end up with 2 to 3 losses before it's over with.
I'm afraid they are too.
Yeah. And
let me tell you something. Nobody can convince me that yours is really better than Manning at this point. Rocky at Texas, yours quarterback.
Hey, look, I completely agree, but I will tell you that I think there's a different style set to both, and depending on who they play, it could be a little, it's one of those where do you need legs? If you do, Arch runs it pretty good.
Yeah,
but remember, there's not a lot of film on Arch.
Right.
There's a lot on Quinn. A lot.
But
it's kind of like the Joe Burrow thing.
He's not
a lot of film on him out there now.
He's not been as good since he got dinged up.
And absolutely understandable. Absolutely understandable.
I mean, because he was considered a top Heisman candidate its first year before the injury.
Well, I don't know who's better going into the draft at quarterback than he is. Who's better?
Well, is Shedeur Sanders going to be there?
Sure,
a lot
but Shedeur's going to go to the Cowboys because they're about marketing. They should be called the Cowboy, the Dallas marketing team.
But I don't know if they can get the number 1 pick. They'd have to buy it.
Well, Shedeur Sanders ain't going to be number 1.
Really? Nah. That's what a lot of analysts are saying.
Sure, but where do you think he's going to go?
I don't know. I haven't seen him play enough this year. I just know that Colorado.
He's incredible. Travis Hunter's going to go to Dallas. They're going to find a way to get those two in Dallas before it's over with.
Colorado is a, Cowherd said that they were just a pretend team in college football, but Dion has actually made them a college football team.
Yeah, Colin Cowherd is like one of the best. I mean, he's so good. He's got really
But he admits his mistakes. He
does. And he was terribly wrong about Josh Rosen.
Yes.
I think he's been wrong about Sam Darnold, even though Darnold's playing really well. But let's remember this. Kirk Cousins was killing it at Minnesota too.
Yep.
Okay. So what do those two quarterbacks have in common? They are distributors of the football. They are not the playmakers.
Well, like I do. There are very few quarterbacks that can take a team on their back. Mm-hmm. But you take quarterbacks that are just a notch under that and put them in the right system.
Absolutely.
And they can perform.
Brock Purdy.
And look, Baker Mayfield. Look what he's done now.
With the maturity that he's got to go with his skill set, it has been incredible.
It's amazing.
And wonderful to watch because I was his biggest critic.
Me too.
Didn't care at all for the attitude and all this stuff. I just wanted to play football, be the best
And once he figured it out,
I'm gonna take
he can play football.
And good for him.
Yes.
He had to overcome those early, challenges in mindset and how he grew up and what made him successful, acting the way he did. Made him, got him to a certain tier, but it couldn't get him over the hump. Mm-hmm. And by being a journeyman and having a terrible experience at Cleveland, which is awful, and then going to wherever, then going to Carolina, then going to
when he was at Cleveland, who was the receiver that he felt so much pressure to throw it
Beckham.
to? Yeah. Odell Beckham, and that wasn't
That was
good either.
ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
That whole thing was just it was absurd.
All right, now let me ask you this. See, when you go back. All right, this week is Penn State and Ohio State. You're gonna have some separation there.
It'll be Ohio State by 20.
You think so?
Oh, they'll beat
the okay. And then that's all.
It's the same.
That's all that Penn
year.
State. That's all that Penn State has.
Well, of course.
That's left on their schedule, because after that they got Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, and Maryland.
This is the thing, Laney. Now you've seen the SEC with the addition of two other traditional greats.
Yep.
Become the great leveler.
Yeah.
Of college football, and it is a gauntlet. And basically, they're just beating the ever-living you-know-what out of each other, while other conferences are existing.
25, 30 years ago, that's what was wrong with ACC basketball. Those top teams just beat each other all the time. It killed them nationally because it was so competitive.
Then they added Syracuse.
I know, yeah.
Then they added –
I know.
I'm like, Pittsburgh, who's actually really good at basketball, that's always been overlooked and had really good teams. It's like the Big East.
They're undefeated too.
Yeah, and college, it's really good. It's very entertaining to watch. But next year, what Texas A&M is going through, basically they could do what Oklahoma's doing now. It's just until they get the portal and the recruiting rules back to common sense, all right, you're going to have all over the place. And you know what a lot of people say? That's a good thing. Chaos is not good. The way that the range of things is competitive nature, but it's got to be on a landscape. If you're going to play in a league, then you have to have a set of rules. Okay, and it can't be because this person over here has more money, they get to do this from a recruiting standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from a facilities thing and everything that has nothing to do with player development, okay.
It's coming. It's going to take some time. Milton, that's a great point. I've never understood either. I've never understood why you get all excited when we're on a first down when you're down 24 points. Yeah. But that happens all the time.
It's a learned behavior.
Good morning. Georgia is the best team in college football. I can't buy that one, G. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
They're good. Richie said, Kurt Signetti said, I win. Google me in his introductory press conference at Indiana.
He's right.
G said Oregon is still number 2. But cannot be above Georgia, and Vanderbilt's not being ranked is not good.
He's right.
Yeah,
he's right.
And Richie said, I heard this yesterday too. Does Deion leave Colorado when Shedeur and Travis Hunter go pro? Mm-hmm. And I think he goes to Dallas.
Yeah,
Mike McCarthy's a lame duck, but I don't think Jerry does it unless he's assured he's going to get Shedeur.
That's what I'm saying. I think Travis Hunter and
it's going to be a package deal.
Yeah, and Deion are going to go to Dallas, and they're going to trade the world to get them both.
Can Deion transition from college to pro coaching?
100%. 100%. Because nobody in the locker room, nobody, and I mean nobody, personality or professional experience is above his.
Right.
He was a two-sport professional athlete.
Yeah.
He was the best defensive back in pro football. Some people may argue Darrell Green. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it's Deion Sanders, who also played wide receiver some.
Yes.
There's no one that can argue with him and say, you don't know what you're talking about and that you don't care about me, because anybody that knows him knows that he cares too much.
And, and Travis Hunter's the one that plays him two-way too.
Deion says, and I believe him, he says that Travis Hunter is much better than he was. He just has to be in the right situation.
Yeah.
And I believe that.
I
believe him.
Honestly, I have been really surprised by what Deion has been able to do. And I think a lot of it, that's why I wonder if it will transition to pro.
Mm-hmm.
Deion is a motivator.
Mm-hmm.
Deion can relate on that level because he's walked in those shoes.
I think he's the only person that can win in Dallas. I think if Deion Sanders goes to Dallas, I think they win the Super Bowl. I think they're competitors every year.
Then let me
as long as he's there.
I got to do a 9 o'clock call. So let me ask you this question: does Jerry leave him alone? That's the whole problem in Dallas.
Jerry doesn't impact Deion. It doesn't matter. He doesn't impact him.
Okay.
Because he is not greater than Deion. This is the only situation that we will see where the incoming head coach will be bigger than the owner in Dallas. Even Bill Parcells was not as big as Jerry Jones.
I agree.
If Bill Belichick went to Dallas, he would not be bigger than Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
This is the only one where the coach and the personality, and you could call it a split personality because there's Deion and there's prime time, right? Prime is greater than what's in Dallas as far as ownership goes. First time ever. Only time.
I think I'm right about this. The only other option that may come up for Deion that would give him pause, because they're going to have an opening. Did he not play at Florida State?
Yes.
To go back to Florida State.
I mean, I say no.
He could win a national championship at Florida State.
Yeah, I say no. He's not. I mean, I guess he could, but there's really no reason for him to take that lateral move. And now, one fairly may say Colorado to Florida State.
Yeah.
I think it is a lateral move now.
From where Florida State is now.
Right. And Deion, if he ends up going to Dallas, this could be the greatest show and the greatest marketing.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about that.
All time in anything, in any business, in any sport, any family living room couch. As flamboyant as he may appear to be at times, he is still a very real person that people can connect with, because he doesn't take BS off the media that always try to catch him in a catch-22, because they can't, because he's greater than they are. Mm-hmm. Their narrative cannot outshine his greatness.
Right.
No matter how bad they want to put it on him, or about this or about that, or did you say this or did you do that or whatever, it can't outshine that. That light is there.
Yep. Agree.
And the biggest thing, single thing, that will be so apparent that will enhance the following is he's a believer.
Yes.
And he's very strong in his faith.
Well, but the other thing that and you know, like I do, I think players have another level of respect for a coach who's walked in their shoes, played in their shoes, understands it on every level, been successful at every level in what they do.
And doesn't talk to him from here
down.
Doesn't.
He talks to him
here. I had
here.
A guy tell me one time, and I'm not going to, because we're done. But I had a guy tell me one time when I was first started coaching around this area, he said, you've got to put yourself up on a pedestal, and the kids have to be down here, and you can't do this. I said, hold on a minute, bro. I said, I may be 26, 27 years old. I said, but I've watched my dad and great coaches since I was a little kid, because I always knew I wanted to do this. And I watched how they interact with the players. And I think being able to communicate with them and immediately giving them respect, not making them earn anything, okay, and addressing the matters most important to them, and actually caring about them and what they do instead of, you know, and how they do what they do instead of just what they do and how they go about it, is how you deepen the relationship with your players.
And on the coaching side.
And that's what I mean. And, you know, that's how it becomes a symbiont relationship in the circle.
But as a coach, you view that differently. I did. As far as I wanted to earn my respect from my players. I didn't want to demand respect because I was a coach.
Yeah, no, I wanted them to know
opposite. Yes, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I mean, and because that's what brings the bridge.
Treat them fairly.
Absolutely.
and treat them, not equally, because everybody's personality is different. You can't treat one kid like you do the rest. You treat them fairly and in the way that they like to. There's a big misnomer about doing to others as you would have them doing to you.
Yep.
No. Doing to others as they would have you doing to them, because everybody's different. You don't treat everybody the same. You treat them fairly.
That's correct.
So you can communicate with them. The way that I communicate with you and communicate with my uncle are two different. You're two totally different people.
Right.
But I learned a lot. Let me tell you what I learned a lot about. In my early, middle, and even now, late coaching days, I've learned a lot about maybe how not to do things.
Absolutely.
As much as the way to do it.
Nothing teaches you more like failure.
Yes. And then watching the failure of others.
Correct.
And then maybe, and not being judgmental, but using judgment on how to enhance the probability of a better outcome that you were looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're in a new area, a new cycle that's getting ready to happen.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of really good young players in the NFL and the NBA and in soccer and Major League Baseball and women's sports, all across the world. There's a lot of really good young people that the circle seems to be going back to more traditional beliefs and values and principles. And it's more about improving yourself as a person and sharing your experiences than trying to just say, hey, everybody look at me. When I see C.J. Stroud, I don't see a dude that I don't see a guy that wants everybody to look at him.
Lamar Jackson's the same way.
I see a guy, Russell Wilson, all right, even though he's older. I'm talking about, but mainly young guys, but Tua, Jalen Hurts. I see guys that want to try to set a standard of excellence and have people look up to them because they know in that role. They don't make an excuse, say, well, I didn't ask for this. Mm-hmm. No, you didn't, but you didn't turn it down either.
Right.
And you accepted it. Therefore, there is a level of responsibility with it. It's like we hear a lot of stuff politically out of athletes, from time to time. Mm-hmm. And I don't hear some of these major athletes talking a whole lot right now. Mm-mm. Okay?
It's a different philosophy and mindset.
Well, people want truth. Okay? They don't want to be told, talked to and told you ought to do this, or you're not feeling this, or you're doing that, or you just, you got a problem with it. They don't want other people telling them that. Mm-hmm. Because, as much as it's important to that person telling them that, we have all these other things in our lives going on. Mm-hmm. And until, that generation figures that out, this generation is going to continue to grow and be great.
Yep.
Because this generation inhibited the one before them and the present one, because they made them believe that they were the only people that mattered in the world and everything revolved around them.
All
that's
about
not
me.
True.
Yep.
So it's different.
All right, G, here's the deal. If Deion goes to Dallas, then he won't put up with Parsons. Well, here's what's got to happen. Jerry's got to give Deion the keys to the kingdom. If that happens, he'll be successful. You here Thursday?
Let's see, Thursday. Yeah, it should be good.
All right, we'll see you on Thursday. Have a good day.